how does on-page SEO help your online presence? I mean, you talked about this, but let's get into it real quick. How does on-page SEO help your online presence?
Sure. So we already kind of hit it with content, right? We want to make sure that we have a page for every product, every service that we sell. We've got a lot of industry expertise, right? Our customer service folks get a lot of questions that are the perfect roadmap for creating some of that upper funnel content that can drive more brand awareness. The on-page technical factors play a role because, of course, everyone's on their mobile devices now, and Google, the biggest search engine, is a mobile first indexing site. So I think prioritizing what Google's calling their page experience, right? If you go to your Google Search Console, which is free, just go to Google and type in Google Search Console, go to a section called Page Experience, and you'll find 4 blocks in there. One of them probably has some red numbers in it, and that's this new, what they're calling their core web vitals. Right? Take a screenshot of that and send it over to your webmaster and say, please address these as quickly as possible, because in June, Google's going to roll out an update that's probably going to start demoting websites that haven't addressed the experience that visitors have when they hit your website from their mobile device. So I think that's where to start. The next thing is really looking at something called conversion rate optimization, or trying to convert more of the visitors into customers. And you do that through testing some different layouts with your website. Maybe somebody hit, if you are a restaurant, maybe somebody hit your gift card page, and they're on this gift card page, and they find that they're scrolling forever to find out where to actually purchase. When instead, when they hit that page, maybe you had some sticky buttons at the bottom of the page that said buy now or compare cards. So they didn't have to scroll and figure out what to do. It's just right there. It's really prominent. Maybe you're a personal injury lawyer and you have a phone icon right next to where your thumb is, and a chat button, for if you want to stretch that thumb and chat instead. And doing that alone, for one of our clients, we saw a 300% improvement in the number of people who actually filled out a form or called versus prior, when we didn't have those sticky buttons. The next thing is thinking about how people really interact with their phones. Most people don't like to have to use 2 hands. If you can get them to complete an action just using their thumb, that means your form fields all have an autofill attribute, so it fills in name, address, phone number. You're not asking for special things in those fields that they have to manually type in, right? They can get through an entire experience with their thumb, and maybe even start thinking about 2022 and 23, knowing that there's 180 voice devices being sent out every minute, Alexas and Google Assistants and Nest and so forth, and start thinking about ways that they can interact with their business using voice, so they don't touch their phone at all as we begin the great untethering, as they call it. And we'll look back in 10 years from now at pictures of us looking at our phones all day going, why did we do that? Right? So start planning for an experience that users can get through with very minimal effort, no keyboard required, just tap, 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 done. Make it as fast and simple as possible. And then every month, just keep testing what you're doing with your pages. Make them faster, make them convert better, add more authenticity signals like video and images, use user-generated content like reviews that you took in, native reviews. Don't curate from Google My Business and Yelp. Create your own, right? If they end up there, fine, but let's try to get them to leave a review for us that we own, that we control, that's ours, that's not just something on some other platform. I think those are some ways that you could look at on-page.
Sorry to cut you off. What do you mean by that? Don't use Google. So what would be a good plugin for like WordPress? Is that what you're talking about? Basically, create something like that, like a plugin so people can just leave reviews on your website.
Or you could just do it manually if you want. Just have a form that says share your review, and you could use any of the form plugins. But there are absolutely plugins for WordPress and for other solutions. Shopify comes already integrated with reviews. So you always want to take in first-party reviews if you can, because you own those. Once Google's gotten a review or Yelp's gotten a review, that's owned content by their platforms. If they shut down one day, you lose all that content. It's gone, right? Or if they decide, hey, we don't want people to share this anymore, we're not going to make it copy-pastable or something. Who knows? But but those are our customers, those are our reviews, and it's sad that we have to feel like we have to give them all of our reviews to rank higher in search results, when the reality is we really don't. We could use a lot of those first-party reviews, and if they still want to go out and leave us a review on Yelp or Google, great, but let's try to get them to give us those reviews first. Whether you're installing a plugin to do it or just using, a free form tool and taking that input in and manually putting it on the website, whatever is easier for your business. Talk to your webmaster, test a few things, but I think when it comes to sentiment and testimonial, I would rather control and have ownership of it, not to gate it, but to own it, because that's my content, right? Why do I want to give that away to a Yelp or a Google My Business?
How about if you go to Google reviews and you start copying those and pasting them into these forms? Is that going to be effective, or is it something that you want with a customer with a different IP address to basically go on there and spend that time to leave that review? What do you think?
So I was at Local U, a conference that Darren Shaw and Joy and Mike Blumenthal and all those folks host every year. If you haven't gone to one, you definitely got to check it out. And Google was there, the Google My Business team, and I asked them, I said, hey, can we use content on our Google My Business profile on our website? And they said, yes, please, we want you to. Use the pictures, use the reviews, use them as much as you'd like to. Will they have a benefit? Will Google look at that content and say, hey, this is unique, I don't already have this in my knowledge graph, I'm going to use this content in helping rank this page? That's not going to happen, because they already know that content exists somewhere else, and it's not new to them. It's not unique to your page. So will it help users when they see the reviews? Absolutely. Are there Google My Business plugins that you can add to share those Google My Business reviews? Go for it. Test it. See how your page performs. But from a ranking standpoint, it's probably not going to have any major lift in keyword rankings unless that's your content.
So that's good. At least it won't hurt you. So because sometimes you duplicate information will hurt you, especially if you as far as you mention somebody, like you get information from somewhere, right? And you give them the credit, and they say, according to this. Will Google recognize that and not ding you for it because you said according to this person, and then you go write whatever you just copy basically?
Of course. That's how Google exists, is because we link to other websites. How would they crawl through the internet if we didn't? Right. So they want us to refer this. You see a lot of language right now in the SEO industry around expertise, authority, trust signals, or EAT signals. I've noticed in any page that we write about relating to medical or politics, if we're linking to authoritative sources, .gov websites and .edu websites, a lot of times those outbound links to those sources actually help build more and instill more trust and authority on our pages when we mention them. Now, if the entire page is a mashup of curated content, it's not very unique and it's not very helpful. But if there's a few areas where you're paraphrasing and borrowing copy from another site and citing them, that's super helpful to the user, and you're giving credit to the person who originally wrote it, and the percentage of that content is low compared to the amount that you wrote or you created yourself. You shouldn't have any problems with keyword rankings at all.
How about as far as you find something in a book and you want to share that, and you say the same thing, according to this person,
sure,
and then you don't have a link because you read it in a book, and so that's okay. You won't get dinged for it because you mentioned the person. You don't have to do anything extra with that.
People quote people all the time. I mean, I quote Jim Rohn. My favorite quote is, you don't have to do extraordinary things to be successful. You only have to do ordinary things extraordinarily well. And I'll quote him in a lot of material, but there's no sort of main source of where that quote came from. Sometimes there might be, but it's not our jobs as webmasters to have to figure out what's the source originator that I need to give credit to. If you read something in a book somewhere, it's always great if you know it, and you want to provide people with, more context so they can go and explore it in more detail, but you don't always have that. So at some point you might get an email saying, hey, you quoted or mentioned us, can you reference our site? And, most of the time I'd say, sure, of course I would,
Got it. So talking about on-page SEO, I had a few comments that I wanted to ask you. In your opinion, how should you structure that page? And I get into that in a second. I mean, I mean, each page, should you only focus on a set of long-term, you should only focus on a set of long-term keywords, because as you know, it's a lot easier to rank on those than going after with one word or two word that everybody's trying to rank for. And specifically when you are trying to focus on local search, okay? And you have to be very specific and thorough. So I keep hearing you want 2,000 words. It used to be 1,200, but now everybody's saying like more is even better. Neil Patel, I just heard Neil Patel say for one of his top ranking pages, like 4,500 words, and they get detail into things. So what are your thoughts on that? And then, for example, creating a page for like Halloween catering in Orange County. You want to talk about that and the things that goes around that, like theme party, right? So it's not like keyword stuffing. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think you might be overthinking it, and it might persuade business owners to not want to do any sort of content if they feel like it has to be 4,500 words. I would say the first place to start is to perform a search for the phrase that you'd like to appear for, and look at the results that already show up. Look at their headings and their titles. Look at the types of content that they offer on their pages. Are there subpages underneath the pages that you land on that support it? Are there tables of contents and jump to sections of the page that elaborate or expand upon different subtopics of that main keyword? So I think it'll vary based on what the user's intent is. If the user's intent is to make a purchase, like they're purchasing holiday event supplies or something, then that page will have a different structure. It'll have a main title and description that include a call to action and a value proposition and the keyword you want to appear for. It'll have some markup on the page to describe the different elements that are on the page, like images and videos and whatever the type of content is, maybe a list. It'll have video. It'll have an optimized high definition image that was created by the business. It'll have all those unique attributes. Now, if it's something where it's about a specific holiday catering, and the goal is to get someone to call you because that you want to be their caterer, then again, you start with the search results, you see what appears, you do some keyword research. Now, if that page has already been around, you can look at your Google Search Console and find potentially thousands of words that have already driven traffic to the page and start to go through those to see which ones are the most relevant. But you have to remember that the on-page keyword usage is really just sort of a one-time important thing for Google to crawl the page, identify some words that it feels it should be testing that page for. Long term, it's really how users interact with that page. Once you get your keyword ranking and you're there, it's less about the words that are on the page, and it's more about how users are interacting. And you know this because you look at your Search Console and you see all these terms, and you're like, I don't use these keywords on the page. Why did I show up for that? Because Google, since the Hummingbird update and with the RankBrain update, they're trying to solve for things, not strings. They're trying to solve for meanings and try to understand what it is you want, not the words that you looked for as a phrase. They're not trying to match up those phrases anymore. They'll use them initially when they crawl the page and try to test it, but long term it's really around, again, how helpful you are for what the user's intent is. And the user's intent will have 1,000 different keyword variations or search term variations that roll up into what Google calls a keyword. So I think it's important to ask your customers, why did you choose us? What do you like about us? What would make us the best service? What made you choose the last person or catering business that you went with? Maybe even call other catering services and other places and ask them, hey, I'm in a whole different state and we're trying to get better at what we do. What are some reasons people use you? What makes you better, right? Why did you become the biggest catering service in that area? And take a lot of that language and try to apply it to your own business and how you do business, and incorporate some of that content into video and into images that are on your page so that you can do what the guys that are doing in other parts of the world are doing that's working for them. And be the most delightful experience for your user. Like, wow, these guys do all this stuff, and that's exactly why I want a caterer. See, that's exactly why I'm not going to go back to this other caterer. Right? They're reading that content, they're seeing those visuals, and they're immediately it's immediately resonating with them. So again, don't put too much time and energy into counting words. Don't put too much time and energy into making sure you have all the right keywords. I'm ambitious, so for me, I like to go after that competitive keyword. And over the course of a year or two, I'll build out enough supportive content with some of those long tail keywords that in a year or two from now, I will rank #1 for that competitive keyword. But I won't start bottom up, because you can't build a silo like that. You build the silo with the competitive keyword at the top, and you build out the supportive content underneath it. That's how at least that's how a taxonomy works. And a lot of SEOs, unfortunately, they just shrapnel their content. Oh, I'll put this on the blog, and I'll put this under resources. And instead of saying, here's the sales page, let's build out supportive content underneath that page to build out a really good silo.
Okay, so as far as long term, you said, okay, it's about interaction. I hear that a lot. So for, let's say, that page that we mentioned, right, for Halloween catering in Orange County. So some good interaction, like you said before, could be maybe like an opt-in to get our recipe for Halloween lasagna dish. So is that the kind of interaction you're talking about? So they put their information. Would that be a good interaction?
I like to drive my content strategy based on keywords. I'll use, just to start, right? Just to kind of get it on its feet so that the pages actually get found and aren't just, just garbage that we're throwing up on the website. They're actually things that people are searching for. So I'll use tools like answerthepublic.com. I'll use the keyword magic tool with the questions filter and SEMrush. In Conductor, they've even got a filter for upper funnel. So I'll be able to pick out strategy, how to, where to in Conductor Searchlight. If you're a Bright Edge person, you might use the data cube. So I'll take all of those and organize a content plan based on how people are searching. When we were trying to help a client who wanted to show up for truck accident lawyer, right, we used that same idea. We took all of the different keywords that other truck sites were appearing for. We used the question filters in these search tools. We used Answer the Public, and we started to group those keywords by what we thought the user's intentions were. Usually it would be 5 to 10 keywords per group, sometimes less. And then from those different clusters, we started to organize them. How would we organize these? Well, this is a parent topic, this is more of a grandparent topic, and this is more of a child topic. And from that, we actually created a whole sitemap of content. So under truck accident lawyer, he's got garbage truck, dump truck, cement truck, logging truck. He's got maintenance issues. He's got neglect issues, or he's just got a ton of supportive content based on how people are searching the internet. So each of those has very low search volume, but there's volume for them. And we're working on those pages basically to solve for the intent that the user has, instead of just saying, hey, let's create a page on blue trucks, or what kind of tires to put on your truck so they don't pop. It's like, no one's looking for that. You've got to find what people are searching for, and that's where the keyword tools come into play. Not specifically to rank for those keywords, but because you're trying to solve for the problems that those keywords address.
Do you use Keyword Planner with Google?
Of course.
Yeah.
And so Keyword Planner, it can be kind of weird sometimes because they don't give you a lot of those upper funnel keywords. They seem to be really focused on commercial search terms. So what I'll do is I'll take my Answer the Public data and I'll dump it into the Keyword Planner so that I get the real search volume for those search terms. But normally I don't see them suggest those upper funnel keywords. You won't see a lot of how to, where to, why to in the Keyword Planner. You'll see those really commercial keywords, and they do that. They bundle hundreds of keywords and misspells into what they call a keyword. But the search terms that go into them are in the thousands sometimes.
Wow. Got it. That was a lot of great information you just gave.